On your screen is the order in which the books are placed in the Bible. Second Chronicles is the 14th book in the Christian Bible. However, in the Hebrew Bible, the Bible of Judaism, it is organized a bit differently than the Christian Bible. Our Old Testament has the same books as the Hebrew Bible. The difference is how they're organized. Notice that the book of Chronicles is the last book in the Hebrew Bible. So in Jesus's time, he would have known the Hebrew Bible as being from Genesis to the book of Chronicles. So the Hebrew Bible starts with Genesis, ends with Chronicles. At the end of Genesis, if you've had time to read it, the people are in Egypt. They're not in the promised land. At the end of Chronicles, what we just read, the people are exiled. They're in Babylon. They're not in the promised land. So both Genesis and Chronicles ends with a prospect of redemption and a prophecy of return to the land. I bring that up because Genesis and Chronicles begin with Adam. We know Adam and Eve were exiled from the garden, but the promise of a redeemer and God's redemptive plan begins in Genesis 3:15. We know that in the garden, man had one God, and in the garden, they had this intimate communion with God. But after exile, that's when you start to see the worship of nature, probably because it seemed to be a source of life. The Israelites were worshiping the fertility goddess, so sex became a means of worship because that was the means through which life came. They also worshiped kings because kings had power. In fact, Nimrod was the world's first dictator who wanted to dominate God's creation. We went over this. The Tower of Babel in Genesis 11 was the rebellious human race who didn't need God to rule over them. They could rule themselves and reach the heavens on their own terms, with their own hands, by their own means. God intervened at Babel and they were dispersed. This is when God took man from the heart of rebellion and made a new nation, a new people to reclaim and redeem mankind once again. It's the Abrahamic covenant. It occurs in Genesis 12. Salvation will not only be for the physical children of Abraham, but for anyone who would believe. Genesis 49:10 says the Redeemer will come from the line of Judah. It's the reclamation and redemption of mankind, of all nations. So we're tracking this seed of the woman. This is why Chronicles, or First Chronicles, opens with genealogy. This started with Adam, and we're following the genealogy of the promised Redeemer. First Chronicles chapters 10 through 29 focuses its attention on the lineage of Judah. The emphasis of Chronicles is on the southern kingdom, Judah, and David's line. Because of the Davidic covenant, the throne of David is going to be established forever. This genealogy is what binds the Old Testament to the New Testament. The genealogy that begins in Chronicles finishes in the book of Matthew. Matthew is the first book of the New Testament. If you read Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, this is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Matthew was writing to his fellow Jewish readers. They know this history. He was showing his Jewish readers that Jesus is their Messiah. This connects not only the Jewish people to their Messiah, but connects us non-Jewish people to the Messiah, the Savior of the world. Israel would become a nation, and it is through that nation that the promised Redeemer would come, in which all people would be saved. Israel